Morning. Start with tzedakah. Bring Mashiach. Make a mess. Still the same tzedakah. Huh? We'll clean that up later. If you want to give this a push on the wall over here. Okay. Okay. I'm going to continue. Section 13, I believe. 13. Okay. We're going to go back to the beginning of the paragraph. So the Rebbe said that just as we saw that the Chassidus illuminated and vitalized and energized the literal interpretation of Maida'ani without changing anything, just simply highlighting or stressing a certain area of the phrase, right? That thank you Hashem for giving back my neshama, and Chassidus didn't change anything. Just thank you Hashem for giving back my neshama, and you have and Chassidus adds clarity and recognition of what is a neshama and what you should be thankful for. So too Chassidus does the same thing with the other explanations as well. So we started with the Chassidus of, we're going to the hint level of Maidani. So let's go back to the beginning of this idea. Haremez shebahachzaras haneshama b'boker l'tchias emesim b'li habir shechassidus hu remez rochik b'yeser l'chayra. The allusion that is contained within the idea that Hashem returns the soul in the morning, the allusion of that to the resurrection of the dead, without the explanation of Chassidus, is seemingly an allusion which is very far-fetched. Very difficult to see the comparison between the two things. Why? In addition to this, that sleep is only 1/60th of death. It's not death. Besides for that, kol hachidush shebahachzaras haneshama la'achar hashino hu rak bikishur haneshama beguf. The whole novelty that exists by the returning of the soul to the body after sleep is just a reconnection of soul and body. Soul and body were a little bit distant. Now Hashem is reconnecting them. But the novelty of the resurrection of the dead is not that. It's not a reconnection of body and soul. There's something novel happening both in body and in soul independently. How so? This is where we're holding. Before the resurrection, all that will remain from the body is the luz bone. Luz is Hebrew, Lamed Vav Zayin. The only thing that will remain from the body is the luz bone. Just a little background. So there's a bone in the body. It's a very, 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 very small bone. And the Midrash says that you can leave it in the ocean for thousands of years. You can try to burn it. You can try to smash it. It's indestructible. There's a physical bone in the body. It's very tiny. That it always is there. It doesn't ever go away. It can't be destroyed. It can't be disintegrated. So even after a person passes away and the body, decomposes, there's still the etzem luz. The luz bone remains. And in fact, the sages tell us that eating on Motzei Shabbos, on Saturday night, a malav malka, which is a special Saturday night meal, actually strengthens this luz bone. Okay. So again, before the resurrection, all that's left is a little bone. Now, resurrection of the dead is soul returning to an entire body. So what happens? Okay. From this is understood also the soul will undergo a crucial change, because the soul and the body are in general relative and connected to each other. So, in other words, okay, let's actually finish off the sentence. At the time of the resurrection, Hashem will build from this little tiny bone an entire new body, complete body. And also, similarly, the soul will go through many different things until it will be also, in a sense, built so that it should be able to enter this body, this new body. Automatically, what comes out is that the allusion, the hint, that is contained within the returning of the soul in the morning to the returning of the soul by the resurrection of the dead is a small semblance of the two are very, very distant. To say that in simple English. In the morning, soul is returned to body. There's body, soul comes into body. Soul and body are both very much present, and they return to each other. By the resurrection of the dead, the soul and the body do not reconnect. The soul and the body are recreated. The body was a tiny bone. In order for the soul to enter into a tiny bone, there has to be a body involved. So Hashem was going to actually recreate, he's going to rebuild a full body from this little bone, almost like DNA. He's going to use the DNA, so to speak, of this bone to rebuild an entire body. So it's going to be an entirely new creation, a new body. And in a similar sense, also the soul. The soul and the body are very much related to each other. So the soul will also undergo tremendous, I don't know if the right word is changes, but let's just, for practical purposes, it's going to go into changes as well until it's able to enter into this new body. In other words, the soul and body independently are going to undergo change and novelty. They're going to be renewed completely. When the soul and the body reunite in the morning after sleep, there's nothing new there, seemingly. The body is the same body it was last night and the day before. Soul is the same soul it was the day before. Nothing new here. It's just a reconnection. So the only similarity between these two things that you're hinting one to the other is that they both involve a body and a soul and life. That's it. But the actual theme of it, this is soul and body reconnecting. Soul is here, body is here, reconnecting. Here, there's no body, and in context, there's no, not in context, in relative to what's going to happen to the soul, there's in a sense no soul, and Hashem is going to renew the soul and the body and put them into each other, or put the soul into the body. So again, the only similarity is there's a soul involved, there's a body involved, and there's a connection between the two involved. That is the only similarity, but they're not the same topic. They're not the same concept. Reconnection and recreation are two different topics. How does one hint to the other? It's like apples and oranges. You say, they're both fruit. Yes, but they're apples and oranges. All right? So what is Chassidus going to do? What is Chassidus going to do for us? Morning. So let's see what Chassidus does to this explanation. Comes along the teachings of Chassidus and explains. What the Chassidus is going to do is show that the hinting that the soul returns to the body in the morning hints to the resurrection of the dead, although they seem to be completely different topics when you want to analyze it, is going to show not only are they not distant, they're very, very much similar to each other. That's why one hints to the other. What does Chassidus come and explain? That even when the soul returns to the body in the morning after one sleeps, and that's why you're saying Mardani, the novelization here is not only with the soul and the body reconnecting, rather there's something novel happening to the body and the soul themselves. Not just a reconnection. Which is why it says it's brought down in Shulchan Aruch, the code of Jewish law, that every morning a person is like a new creation, a new creature. I mean, new, because there's something new going on here. What's the novelty? Ki bechol rega verega mishavis kol abrio mechodosh mamish kamay b'maise bereshis. Comes along Chassidus, you open up Tanya, the book of Tanya, to the second portion of the Tanya, the portion called Shar HaYichud V'Ha'emunah, the gate of unity and faith. Look right in the beginning, we have the explanation of the Baal Shem Tov on the verse, La'olam Hashem dvarcha nitzav b'shamayim. Forever Hashem, your word stands in heaven. Baal Shem Tov explains that this is not just referred to heaven, it refers to all of creation, all of the universe. That Hashem's words is what sustains every creation at every moment. And Hashem is constantly pumping this energy into creation in order to keep it alive and existing. And if Hashem were to stop speaking existence into existence, even for a fraction of a second, all of existence would cease to exist instantaneously, because the only thing keeping it up and existing is Hashem's divine energetic flow. If you compare this to take a ball, okay, and you throw it up in the air. After a few seconds, what's going to happen? If all things go well, and the universe continues to function in the same manner it's been functioning for the past thousands of years, the ball will fall down. Why? Why doesn't it just keep going up? Why doesn't it just stay up in the air? Because the ball is supposed to be on the floor. The natural position of a ball is on the ground, or on a table, down. You're coming along, and you're adding something to this ball temporarily. You're throwing in an energy into this ball. Your force of your hand, you're throwing it up. Okay? So the ball wants to be on the ground. I'm using the word wants, but just bear with me. Ball wants to be on the ground. You're coming and you're changing the regular status of the ball by adding an energy into it, this force of the throw. This force throws the ball up into the air, and the moment this force runs out, slowly, as it goes up fairly fast, but as it slowly gets to the top of its height, it slows down because the force is running out. And when that force runs out, one and only one thing happens. The ball goes right back down to its natural position on the floor, okay? Because that's where the ball's supposed to be. So too, the natural state of existence, you ready for this, is non-existence, okay? The only thing that had always existed was Hashem. That's it. That there should be something else besides for Hashem, it was completely bonkers. Why would it made no sense for there to be anything else other than Hashem? That's what it always was. Hashem decided he's going to do something, against status quo, so to speak. He's going to create a creation. He's going to create a universe. For this universe to do something that's against its status quo, which is to not exist, it has to be given an energy to exist every single moment. And if this energy were to stop, it would just go back into non-existence. Much like the ball, if you wanted the ball to stay up in the air, you need a really powerful fans, put it underneath, and you have the ball being blown up by this, upwards by this fan, and it would just float up in the air. It'll hop a little bit, but it'll float. Because there's a force that's constantly pushing it up. The second you turn that fan off, unplug it, the ball goes right back down. So the world, the existence as well, Hashem is constantly blowing with a fan of divine energy the world into existence. And if Hashem were, in theory, God forbid, to stop, to turn off the fan for a second, we would instantaneously go back to our regular state of affairs, which is non-existence. What did we just say? Everything is recreated at every single moment. Every single thing that exists is brought into creation from nothing to something, absolute nothing, to a something, every single moment. In other words, when you wake up in the morning and Hashem returns your soul to your body, He's not just returning your soul to your body, old soul, old body. This is a new creation here. Hashem is recreating your soul. He's recreating your body every single moment. And He's putting the two together in the morning. Is that not similar to the resurrection of the dead, where Hashem is going to completely renew our body and soul? They're very similar. They're not exactly the same, but they're very, very similar. That's why one hints to the other. Parenthetically, the Rebbe says, the Rebbe brings a very interesting point from the Alter Rebbe's book of Likutei Torah, which is a big book of Chassidus teachings, that when is this idea of Tchias HaMesim, the resurrection of the dead, hinted? It's hinted at an event that happens in the morning. What do you mean? Hashem always recreates creation. This novelty of recreating something from nothing happens at every moment. Why are we focusing specifically on Moed Ani in the morning? Says the Rebbe, bring from the Alter Rebbe, because the expression, the revelation of the novelization, the recreation of the existence of the world, of the universe, constantly from something to nothing, is most seen in the morning. The Alter Rebbe says that the closest thing in our world to be an analogy for a creation of something from nothing is that you had a dark night, it was just darkness, and then the first glistening rays of light from the sun come up in the morning. That light that breaks the darkness is the closest thing we have to understand the idea of the creation of something from nothing. That's what the Alter Rebbe says. Okay. Let's finish off this thought and then we'll pause for today. The true sensitivity of being sensitive to this revelation, to this idea, stems from the level of Yechida, the essence of the soul. Why? Dalet habechinas naranach, the four levels of the soul, nefesh, ruach, neshama, chaya, mikivan shehem nimtzoim be'olam, being that each of those levels of soul are associated with a particular world of existence. Nefesh, basiya, ruach, betzira, neshama, b'riya, v'chaya, be'atzilus. There's four worlds. There's a tphysical world and three spiritual worlds, 3.5. There's the world of Asiya, the lowest one. Then there's Yetzira, Beriya, and Atzilus. Each one of the four levels of soul are associated with a different world. Okay, Nefesh is associated with Asiya, Ruach is associated with Yetzira, and so on and so forth. So, being that each level of soul is found in a particular world, what is the natural feeling, the baseline feeling of each of these levels of soul? The existence of a world. The world exists. I exist. I exist. That's the baseline thing. I always make a joke. I ever see like these guys that they go down like the street, it's a quiet street, they come down with their car or motorcycle that is like louder than 10 airplanes. Like they're making a statement. I exist. I want everybody to know that I exist. In case you almost forgot. So these levels of soul, their baseline mindset and perspective is, I exist. I'm in a world that exists. And to these levels of soul, the whole idea that the worlds truly have no existence, and their entire existence is constantly renewed from absolute nothing to a something. This idea for these levels of soul is, oh, I didn't know that. It's a novel thought. It's the abnormal. It's new information, so to speak. Because again, for these levels of soul, the baseline perspective is, I exist. The world exists. Oh, the world truly doesn't exist? I didn't know that. It is only the level of the essence of the soul, the level of Yechida, which completely transcends the whole idea of worlds. It's this Yechida is sensitive to the idea. It's actually felt by the Yechida on the baseline perspective. The default setting of the Yechida is that all the creation and all the world are absolutely nothing. They have no true existence. That is the Yechida's default setting. That's his perspective. And the entire existence of the world is completely renewed at every moment. So in other words, if you were to go to the four levels of soul, Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, Chaya, and you say, hey, did you know that the world truly doesn't exist and Hashem is constantly recreating it so that it should exist? Those levels of soul go, really? I had no idea. Or even if I did know, I'd go, wow, I forgot, You go to the level of Yechida and you tell Yechida, you know that Hashem, that the worlds truly don't exist and Hashem recreates it every moment. Yechida says, yeah. To the Yechida, if you want to tell the Yechida something novel, you have to go to the Yechida and say, do you know that there are people that think that they truly exist and that there's a world that feels that it truly exists and it's independent from Hashem? The Yechida will look at you like you fell off the moon. What? What does that mean? Everything's Hashem. What are you talking about? So this is a sensitivity that comes from that Chassidus introduces, because Chassidus is exposing Yechida. Okay, God willing, on Sunday we are going to move on to the drush level of Maida'ani. How Maida'ani reminds us and teaches us not to be stingy and hold back on collaterals that people owe, even though they owe us money, to give back the collateral. And we see how the Rebbe dissects this and shows how Chassidus energizes this. Have a great day.